And Solange Moujon for a look at today's papers. Interesting out in Australia, Solange, where more than a dozen papers are censoring themselves today.
Yeah, it is a blacked out news day today in Australia. All of the major Aussie papers have redacted their front pages, be it the Australian, the Chronicle, the Daily Telegraph, Sydney. They've all joined the campaign by Australia's Right to Know coalition that says that the government is trying to suppress press freedom. They point to more than 60 laws about secrecy and spying over the past 20 years, including a current law on whistleblowing that's being reviewed at the moment. And they point to cases of journalists facing jail time for revealing intelligence secrets and raids on TV headquarters, a strong arming that's also being felt by the Australian people. So only 37% of Australians say they feel they live in a free and transparent democracy.
Well, let's turn our attention now to London and the frenzied week that lies ahead for Boris Johnson, who's still trying to push through his Brexit package.
Yeah, it was a busy weekend for the Britain's Parliament. Saturday, we thought they were going to vote on Johnson's deal, but that was postponed, leading the Prime Minister to send some 3 contradicting letters to Brussels. Boris Johnson right now is still trying to nail down the votes he needs for the plan, and some Labour MPs say they would actually vote for it, as you can see on the cover of the Eye, but there is an if there.
A big if.
A big if, yes, exactly. They'd vote yes if there is an amendment attached that requires a second referendum, be it on Brexit or the whole plan. Now, this has enraged Conservative MPs and pro-Brexit papers. As you can see from the Daily Express, says, how dare they plot to hijack Brexit? The paper says the country is, quote, a laughingstock going from one parliamentary fiasco to another in what is a farce and a shambles, end quote. The Daily Mail's point of view is much the same. They say the Labour MPs are cynical, quote, cynical wreckers who trample on democracy, and that the nation is like Alice who's fallen into the looking glass into, quote, a world of perverse, irrational behavior.
And we are 10 days away from Britain's scheduled departure of the EU, and the anger in this pro-Brexit press might be explained by that, and the Atlantic picking up on that.
Yeah, the Atlantic argues that the Leave side is so upset because they could be losing their grasp on the whole sort of Brexit shebang. Johnson may still be able to push through his deal, we don't really know, but Parliament's roadblocks and delays are a sign that overall Brits don't support leaving like they used to, according to the Atlantic. The article says that the change is happening because of what they call a generational replacement, that for the first time Remainer Brits, many of whom are young people, are taking on a European identity, which supports actually the hardliners' argument that it's now or never, that, quote, since Parliament voted not now, it means never could ultimately be in the cards.
All right. Well, shifting gears now, Donald Trump's recent letter to Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is making the Twitter sphere go haywire?
Yeah, and Hillary Clinton is joining in on the fun. The former Secretary of State reposted a fictional with a big underline there, you have to know this is fictional, letter dated from 1962 during the Bay of Pigs crisis. It parodies Trump's very unique writing style.
Chummy writing style.
Yes, exactly. That was on display in the real letter to Erdogan. And in the fake letter, Kennedy says to Khrushchev, quote, don't be a dick, get your missiles out of Cuba, otherwise we will call your garbage country the Soviet Bunion. And it ends with, you're really busting my nuts here, give you a jingle later, hugs, JFK. So a bit of trolling there on Trump from Hillary Clinton.
All right, well, let's look at some science news that may literally blow your mind.
Yes, indeed. Scientists are getting closer and closer to being able to grow human brains, or mini little bits of them. The Guardian tells us this could help treat diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and autism. And then these mini brains, they actually grow their own neuronal networks, and they respond to light, activity that actually mimics the brains of developing animals and humans, which means that these mini brains aren't actually that far from being able to feel pain or suffer. So at the world's annual meeting today of neuroscientists, there are going to be many calls, according to The Guardian, to discuss the ethical lines that all of these things raise about these mini brains. Now, if this is freaking you out, it's me out a little bit.
Mini brains.
Yes, mini brains. Mashable has an article for you. It has some advice. It says, let it go. In another article, they say that overthinking can shorten your lifespan. They reference a study that says that overactivity or out of control excitement in your neurons is bad for your health.
Yeah, and you found another article that says something along those lines. Thinking too much might be bad for your health, and literally thinking outside the box could be bad for your grades.
It could indeed. This is a fun article about a literal cardboard box experiment that went awry in India. It's from Slate, which actually picked up a Hindu article from earlier this week. At a school in Haveri, teachers told students sitting for their midterm exams to put cardboard boxes on their heads to keep them from looking sideways and cheating. Well, the experiment may have worked for the cheating, but it didn't work out too well for the school. Higher up education officials heard about this online. They immediately went to the school and put an end to the so-called box experiment.
Yeah, thinking out of the box should never be taken literally,
No.
I think. All right.